I was the perfect vehicle for the narrative to manifest within. For there are no threats to the narrative's longevity when its carrier is veiled in naive complacency of never having to wonder what lies outside of the bubble. I embodied the narrative because I didn't even know I was subscribing to it. Fill the boxes and the equation will check out right. That's how you navigate a standardized system after all, isn't it? The funny thing about a standardized system is that when you're outside of the measurements, they don't really make all that much sense. I can't tell you the value behind achieving the highest numerical grade based on how well I could memorize, not analyze, other than it encourages chronic subliminal numbness that stifles critical thinking, creativity, imagination, and exploration. It was a summer afternoon, the kind where it's hotter inside than it is outside. I was 2 years out of the standardized school system and thousands of miles away across the Atlantic Ocean when something monumental struck my empathetic intuition. It wasn't until I was standing in this crowded classroom facilitating a workshop, mildly overwhelmed, inhaling the heavy, humid stench of this morning's catch that would radiate up the hill during low tide, that I realized that there could be room for more. There had to be room for more. A group of young girls in the corner of the room were being defiant and splattering their watercolor paints recklessly when the most interesting interaction occurred. The girls were entirely confused when I walked over, and instead of reprimanding them for the mess they made, I commended them on their creative discovery of another technique to use watercolor paint. I continued to describe how they were incorporating different techniques of art such as design, texture, and line into their painting. They are beautifully defying constricting boundaries of obedience, and therefore able to participate in organic and explorative learning. The attitude of defiance evaporated and bloomed into pride as other students came over to observe, and became excited about this acceptable opportunity to splatter paint all over their papers. The girls continued to push boundaries artistically, and suddenly had the courage to take creative risks. For a magical moment, the hostility dissipated, and the hellish world looming outside that preyed on innocence was forgotten. That day, at the Sentinel Primary School in Hout Bay, I realized that there had to be more than the standardized narrative I had been indoctrinated with back in the United States. How can there be only one way to measure success when so many different forms of it exist? At the most fundamental level, we as humans have the capacity, despite all barriers, to do something good, something worth appreciation and value. This is a perspective the standardization narrative boldly snuffs out. There is no equity, empathy, inclusion, understanding, or self-worth in the rigidly narrow channels of standard.
I've been dreaming again about the revolution in my head. I've been dreaming again.